Here we are, week 10 in the National Football League. And as I teased on Tuesday, this may be the worst slate in the history of the National Football League for any given week. The lines this week were absolutely terrible. I had no idea how to bet these games. I'm going to go based off the stronger quarterback, stronger team, stronger coaches I trust. There's a lot of 50-50 games either way this week, and you'll see the common theme I have this week is generally if the teams are 50-50, I don't know who's going to win. I'm going to take the home team just because the home field advantage, as we know, does matter in the National Football League. Again, last week, 10-3 in the money line. That followed up the week before, week 8, with 13-3 money line. I am not expecting the money line to be that good this week. I think there could be a lot of upsets this week. There's one team, if you have not used for Survivor yet, you're very lucky. I have not used this team, and I think they're a lock to win this week. And even though the spread is huge, we're going to talk about it. I do think they cover. Last week, best bets, I won 4 for 5. Again, I hit Pittsburgh defeating Tennessee, Baltimore defeating Seattle, Philly defeating Dallas, Cincinnati defeating Buffalo, missing New England defeating Washington. Let's see how this week turns out. Thursday night football, you got Bryce Young against Tyson Bagent, the battle for the number one pick. And Chicago, this could be a little bit of an advantage for them because it's their second Thursday night game they play this year. Of course, that's new this year in the NFL where you can play more than one Thursday night football game. They clobbered Washington in early October, and now here sort of in early November, they take on a Carolina team, but I gotta say, Tyson Bagent has not looked good since they basically defeated the Raiders and cost Josh McDaniels his job. Bryce Young had 2 bad interceptions last week. I think that Carolina, though, is going to be more motivated to win this game. They're on a short week. I think Bryce Young plays well in prime time. I think that Carolina defense, which is a little bit underrated, they're not great, but they have done a good job at limiting scoring this year. I do think that the Panthers come out here on the road. Again, I'm not going to best bet it. I'm not confident about it. It's sort of a gut feeling here. Carolina with the upset on Thursday night. Now, New England and Indianapolis in Germany, and I'm done trusting New England. I would bet them this week. You would think Bill Belichick would be able to rattle Gardner Minshew. But again, I thought New England was going to be able to defeat Sam Howell last week. I thought it was one of the easiest games of their schedule. They cannot do that. These are not the same Patriots anymore. This is a bad football team that needs a reset, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. I think in Germany, where it's a neutral field, I mean, who knows? Maybe New England wins. Gardner Minshew struggles. Indianapolis has not been the best team with Gardner Minshew. Starting games opposed to him filling in relief for Anthony Richardson. I have no idea how this game's going to go. I think Belichick's able to get a couple interceptions. It's a low-scoring game, 20-17, maybe lower than that, 17-14, somewhere around there. I'll take New England on a neutral field just because I think they need to win this game just for the morale of the franchise. And Belichick on a neutral field against a bright offensive coach in Shane Steichen, who I like, but I don't think Indianapolis has as good a weapons as Washington. I think you shut down Jonathan Taylor, which New England's actually been pretty good against the run this year. They struggle in pass defense. I think Michael Pittman struggles against that still very good secondary. New England gets the win. One of the best games of the weekend. Deshaun Watson did not play in week 4 against the Baltimore Ravens. He will play this week. Now, that shoulder is not 100%. Watson didn't even look great against a bad Arizona team last week. Baltimore has been rolling people, but we all know how this divisional game stuff works. When you roll people and then you go into a divisional game, usually these division games are very tough. They're very hard to handicap. Now, the Browns have struggled in the past against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, but they have had success one other time in 2019. Lamar's MVP year, the Browns head coach is Freddie Kitchens. Cleveland came in there with Nick Chubb, and they ran the hell out of the football. I don't think that they're going to be able to do that, but I think the Browns match up well with Baltimore. I think they play it close. These two teams usually play good games in Baltimore. The line is 6. I'm not going to trust it. But I do think the Ravens end up winning it. I think the line's about right. I think if anything, the Browns would be the side. I think the Browns are more likely to cover. Baltimore wins the game, though, anywhere between 3 and 7 points. Next game, Green Bay at Pittsburgh. This is going to be my first bet of the weekend. I got Pittsburgh at home. I got a -3. I have bet the Steelers way more than any other team this year, and it's because I generally know what I'm going to get from Pittsburgh. It's going to be low scoring. Kenny Pickett is not going to play well, but TJ Watt and Heinz Smith and that pass rush and Mike Tomlin and that defensive culture. It's a lot like what New England should be if they had a little bit better offensive pieces, which is we're just going to beat up on bad quarterbacks. And they're at home, and they're very tough at home. And Jordan Love has struggled to move the ball outside of week 1 this year. I think the Green Bay really struggles here. Another low scoring game, but give me Pittsburgh to cover. I think the very worst they push, but I think this is a 7 to 10 point victory for the Steelers. I like the number at 3. Houston at Cincinnati. Now, if I was confident that Cincinnati had Jamar Chase, he's seemingly dealing with a little bit of a back issue. It sounds like he may not play. I take Cincinnati here at 6.5. I'm not going to best bet it because of the way CJ Stroud has played. CJ Stroud has played not like a rookie. He's played at Andrew Luck rookie levels, which is basically carrying the franchise a lot more than we thought of him. When he came out, Tank Dell has been an emerging wide receiver. We said Houston was going to be a competent football team this year. They certainly do look like it. Their secondary, though, last week got tortured by Tampa Bay. If Jamar Chase was 100% healthy, they would get tortured by Cincinnati. But as I said in my Tuesday recap, the Bengals struggle when Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are not healthy. If one of them is not healthy, even if Chase is not healthy, Burrow struggles to get the ball to Boyd. He struggles to get the ball to T. Higgins. It is such a different operation when Jamar Chase is in there. Now, Houston has a bad run defense. This could be a Joe Mixon type game. This is a scenario where Cincinnati could blow Houston out. Maybe CJ Stroud plays rough. And Cincinnati wins this game by 20 points, but maybe Cincinnati struggles a little bit offensively, and Houston can get a backdoor cover. So I'm not going to trust the number, but I'll take the Bengals to win at home. Speaking of just trusting to win at home, I don't know. Titans, Bucks. Bucks are favored by 1.5 points, which is probably about right. Tampa, I think, will win the game. I think Baker Mayfield will play well at home. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin will have success against that secondary. I think Todd Bowles is a very good defensive coach. He will rattle Will Levis a little bit more. The question is going to be, can Tampa Bay find a way to tackle Derrick Henry in the backfield? Will DeAndre Hopkins get going? Now, they lost Burks last week after he got that concussion against Pittsburgh. Will that hamper DeAndre Hopkins a little bit? Was it a little bit of a resurgence under Will Levis as opposed to Ryan Tannehill? Tennessee may be watchable again, but not by much. I think Tampa actually has a good offense. Again, you just don't trust Baker Mayfield here week to week. Bucks will probably win at home, but this is one of those 50-50 contests that I could see going either way. Same thing here with Saints-Vikings. We know the Saints have a very good defense, but Minnesota's defense is coming of age. So can Derek Carr, who has played better over the last few weeks, can they beat Minnesota on the road? Certainly they can, but it took the Saints 5 turnovers to barely beat the Bears, and they didn't even cover, and Tyson Bagent was horrible. The Saints are going to win the NFC South by default. It feels like it's the worst division of all time. And the Josh Dobbs story last week, Minnesota did not play great in the first half, but Josh Dobbs won over that locker room for what he did in Atlanta. I like Minnesota here. Again, I'm not going to bet it because I don't trust it. This game could go either way, but Minnesota is a dog by 2.5. I like the Vikings. Next game. Both teams going off a bye. This may be the best game of the week. Niners at Jags. San Francisco is favored by 3 on the road. I'm not going to bet this game, but I have a gut feeling Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, those Niners players are going to play very well. Jacksonville has struggled a lot like Miami this year against good teams. They only put up field goals against Kansas City's defense. I think it's a long day for Trevor Lawrence. I think this has a potential to be a week 1 San Francisco, Pittsburgh like blowout, or a week 2 more defensive-minded game where Kansas City beat Jacksonville 17-9. I can see both scenarios. If Jacksonville does play well and they're starting to prove that they are for real, they can't absolutely upset San Francisco if they get pressure on Brock Purdy. It's going to be permanent for Josh Allen, the great defensive end, to do that. I think Jacksonville is a good team. I don't think they're great. I think San Francisco has more talent. I think ultimately they get back on track here. They win on the road. Next game, this is going to be my second best bet. So again, I'm only best betting Pittsburgh in the 1 o'clock window. But I got the Lions here over the Chargers in a game that I think could be an absolute shootout. What I'm worried over the Chargers perspective is the rest. So the Lions are coming off a bye. They are, a fresh team where the Chargers just played on Monday night against the Jets. They played the Bears and the Jets the last 2 weeks. They're not going to be ready for Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown and those Lions players, Sam Laporta, Gibbs, David Montgomery potentially coming back off a bye. Now, I do think out there, Detroit does not have much of a pass rush. Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen could go up and down the field. I think this could be the most exciting game of the weekend. I'm talking 38-35, somewhere around there, where Dan Campbell outcoaches Brandon Staley late. That's the difference. I think there's a good reason why the Lions are favored by 2.5 here. Vegas thinks the Lions are better. I agree. I'm taking them at 2.5. This is my upset of the week. And again, I don't trust it. I'm not going to best bet it. It's just sort of a gut feeling. Arizona at home with the return of Kyler Murray is going to beat the Falcons. The Falcons are not good. Bijan Robinson has only had 1 carry inside the 5 all season long. Atlanta drafted him in the top 10. They have no idea how to use him. They're still trying to rotate Cordero Patterson and Tyler Algier. Drake London missed last week, and Taylor Heineke played okay. He did not play great. Arthur Smith is a competent coach in a bad division, is basically what he is. And I think the surprise element here that Jonathan Gannon in Arizona is going to bring out with Kyler Murray. Now, I'll say this. The way that Atlanta lost that game last week against Minnesota, is there a possibility they come out, they run the football, they take out the death of Arizona, which is not much? Yes, but it does seem like that Arizona now wanting to play Kyler Murray instead of sitting him and, potentially trading him, getting a first-round pick, risking injury. I think Arizona feels like that they want to move forward. They're going to try to win games with Kyler Murray and build around Kyler Murray, maybe trade back in the draft and not get a quarterback, which once again, I reiterate for the last 10 weeks, that's a mistake. But I think Arizona here, I banged on them all year long. I think they're the least talented team in football, but they get a win here against Atlanta, upset in the desert on Sunday. Seattle at Washington. Again, who knows? Are we going to get good Sam Howell? Are we going to get bad Sam Howell, who's played better the last couple of weeks in that Seattle environment, in the loud noise? Seattle should play better. Seattle should win this game. But Geno Smith has not played well in a month. He has turned the ball over halfway. Washington does not turn the ball over that much. And with the lines of Chase Young and Montez Sweat, they're not as ferocious on the defensive line, though Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne inside could make it tough for Kenneth Walker to run. Again, I don't really know how this game's going to play out. It's another one of these weird games. I'll take Seattle to win at home, but there's no way I'm touching this game. Then we get to the Giants at the Cowboys. Giants are starting Danny DeVito. Dallas pissed off after they lost to Philly in that close game last week. I don't care if the line's 16.5. Dallas beat the Giants 40-0 at Sunday Night Football week 1. They may do it again here. I don't care. I'm taking the Cowboys 16.5. I think there's too many wonky games this weekend with wonky spreads. You guys know I don't love betting big spreads. This is the exception here. And I don't even like touching division games. I don't see a way the Giants get close in this matchup. They just don't match up with Dallas. I'm taking Antonio Pierce's Raiders plus 1.5. I think the story of Aiden O'Connell comes in. They get Devontae Adams going. The Jets, they have to score on defense. So the Raiders' defense is not great, but they're going to fly around for Antonio Pierce, who's got that team believing. And so for that reason, I got the Raiders in the upset. I feel confident about it. I don't think the Jets move the football that well. Could it be a low-scoring game where, the Jets end up winning 16-13? I could see it. But for the Jets to win a football game, they basically have to hold their opponent below 17 points. I don't think that happens, and they may even have to do it worse than that. Zach Wilson had a good second half against the Chiefs in Week 5 on Sunday Night Football. That's about the best we've seen out of Zach Wilson. Since he's gone back to not completing a pass, and until I see it, the Jets are just a boring watch, and are rooting for them to get a defensive touchdown if you take the Jets side. Give me the Raiders here at plus 1.5. And then I'm going to best bet Buffalo. They go from Sunday night to Monday night. Denver's secondary is bad. I'm not going to say Buffalo is going to put up 70, but I do think it's a get-right game for Diggs, Kincaid, that defense that obviously has lost Tre'Davious White, Milano, and a lot of defensive pieces. Denver has been running the football. They've been getting better. Is there a way that Denver potentially covers it here? But the line is 7.5. Which basically says Buffalo will win by more of a touchdown. I think Buffalo is more of an explosive offense than what Kansas City was that Denver shut down. I think on the road, Monday night, that crowd, Russell Wilson really struggles here. Even coming off a bye, if you're Denver, Buffalo, angry. Sunday night, they go into Monday night, they pound the Broncos. They cover at 7.5. So to recap, my money line predictions for Week 10, I have Carolina upsetting Chicago on Thursday night. New England beats the Colts in Germany. Baltimore beats Cleveland. Pittsburgh beats Green Bay. Cincinnati beats Houston. Tampa beats Tennessee. Minnesota beats New Orleans. San Fran beats Jacksonville. Detroit beats the Chargers. Arizona beats Atlanta. Seattle beats Washington. Dallas beats the Giants. Raiders beat the Jets. And then Buffalo ends up defeating Denver. My 5 best bets for Week 10 of the 2023 NFL season are Pittsburgh covers the 3 against the Green Bay Packers. Detroit, I'm weighing 2.5 against the Chargers in LA. Dallas covers the massive 16.5-point spread against the Giants. Vegas, my one dog of the week, plus 1.5 against the Jets. And then Buffalo Monday night, minus 7.5 against Denver. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.